It's on the final day of the ministerial retreat of the cabinet of President Buhari. The president said he is doing his best for the country, and for those who judge him should do so fairly. Let's take a look at some of the priority areas and the scope of work, and judging side by side with the deliverables and the realities of things in the country. How would you judge things? Let's get to hear from Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, who joins us from Ikeja area of Lagos. Thank you so much, Senior Advocate, for joining us on the program. Let me get your quick reaction for some of the things the president said yesterday as regarding the fact that Nigerians should expect a possible more hike in the price of fuel. What are your immediate reactions on this?
Well, my immediate reaction was that I felt the president was simply telling Nigerians that government has run out of ideas. And so we are going to embark on a rush of increases to fund our budget. Because it's a bit sad, because here was a regime that came to power based on its own promises. As an opposition party, the All Progressive Congress had convinced Nigerians to believe that subsidy was a fraud perpetrated by the PDP-led government. And Nigerians were bound to believe the flag bearer of the APC, General Muhammadu Buhari, who had managed the oil industry in the 70s. And when he flaunted his own record of achievements, having managed the oil industry and having been chair of Abacha's presidential Petroleum Task Force, Nigerians believed that President Buhari had a solution to the problem. And he did promise that he was going to fix the comatose refineries and build new ones so that this country would not depend on importation of fuel. But what have we had in the last 5 years? Subsidy was changed to under recovery. And this year alone, 2020, 450 billion naira was set aside for under recovery. And that was when it occurred to the government that there was no way you could go on this way. Since we are unable to fix the refineries, we have to look at some other alternative to PMS. And this government, without any harassment, decided to adopt the policy we had suggested, the program we had suggested since the period of the Obasanjo, administration. And that was when the government decided in January this year, January 16 to be specific, the government announced that it was going to replace PMS with CNG, that is compressed natural gas. That was on January 16. And by September this year, the country will migrate from PMS to CNG, which the government announced will cost between 95 naira and 97 naira per liter, instead of 145 naira at that material time. Nigerians accepted and welcomed the announcement. And DPR, Department of Petroleum Resources, started a campaign, an awareness campaign. And Nigerians were now expecting the filling stations to be built, while the necessary machinery will be put in place to convert our vehicles and adjust vehicles to CNG. But what have we done? What has the government done? It is at the time when I expecting the program to take off in September, government has announced an increase of petroleum fuel, and we're being told now, oh, that's because of deregulation. With profound respect, I just listened to the GMD of NNPC. With profound respect, deregulation is illegal. In the case of Bamidele Aturu and the Attorney General of the Federation, the Federal High Court declared deregulation illegal in the face of Section 6 of the Petroleum Act and Section 4 of the Price Control Act. These are two extant laws that have imposed a duty on the government to fix the prices of goods, particularly petroleum products. So the government cannot say we are breaching the law. We are disregarding the judgment of the court, even though we didn't appeal against it. So please, this question of deregulation doesn't arise.
Okay.
And we have been in this business of deregulation since 2016. When we told in May 2016, when oil price was increased from 97 naira to 145 naira, when we told that we had already embraced deregulation, now we are being told that it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are having this increase. Before, we were told under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration and Goodluck Jonathan administration, that smugglers were to be blamed.
Mr. Falana, just a moment. Let me bring another person into the conversation. A former minister of commerce under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, Mr. Mustafa Bello. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, former minister, for your time tonight on the program. If you look at what the Buhari government has done in the ministerial retreat, and it does look like a self-reappraisal or a self-assessment of what is being done for a government that says we want to look inward and the priority areas that they have set out for themselves. How would you judge this government? The president has said, look, judge us fairly. What would be your judgment or assessment of this government in the last 1 year?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you my own views and opinion. As far as I'm concerned, one, I must commend the government for bringing in the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. I think with the coming on stream of that advisory council, we started seeing changes. We started seeing improvements, in particular the response of government to certain, policies that actually needed to migrate from where they were to where they are today. And I'm sure over time we will begin to even see more changes, more improvement. Certain policies will be brought in that will have direct impact and bearing on the citizens of the country. So within the last 1 year, as you said, I believe that we have started seeing some progression, from stagnation to actually movement, and I'm sure it's going to be a sustained kind of movement that will move the economy from where it was to where we see it actually heading into.
If you look at some of the priority areas being set by this government, which includes stabilizing the macroeconomy, achieving agri and food security, ensuring energy sufficiency, improve infrastructure, drive industrialization, improve health education, enhance social inclusion and reduce poverty, fight corruption and improve governance, improve security for all. And what we saw in the past few days, the People's Democratic Party came out to say Nigerians cannot survive fuel and electricity price hike. Would you say things are going on the side of the people based on the policy of this government?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not part of the government, so I'm not speaking on their behalf. Neither am I speaking on behalf of the PDP. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the opinion of people I have, interacted with, as it relates to some of these fuel price hike, energy sector hikes, and so on and so forth. Much as I think there is need for government to address the issue of the leakages, associated with the imports of fuel and distribution in the country, most importantly is actually to have done an end-to-end analysis of the impact of that on the economy and the people. And then identify what are those palliatives that government can introduce that will actually help, cushion the impact. Naturally, when you inject this kind of changes which are so sudden, Obviously, the equation gets difficulty to be balanced. And with the result that you have something like a haywire situation, created within the economy that affects from one sector to the other, and most other sectors actually get affected. And you see price escalations. You see so many things that really happen so suddenly. And then, in fact, they tend to affect the individual budgets, even company budgets, and even the government budget itself. So I think there is need for government actually to really sit and look at what can we do to regenerate activities that can provide immediate jobs, for the citizens as a result of some of these policies that have been taken. Now, on the list that you have just displayed, on the screen, of all those new areas which the government said it intends to address, I think the number is really large. We need to identify which one leads into what, and then into what and into what. Because in every planning to improve or to develop, you need to identify the triggers and then hold on to them, because they will now ignite activities, which will create a chain reaction that will be positive or otherwise. So I think the numbers may be too many. I know one of the political parties said, oh, the president couldn't do 3, how can he do 7? He can do the 7 by identifying the first 2 or 3 of them that will lead, into the implementation of the other 4. So I think there is need to really sit and identify how do we streamline all those items that have been now itemized, as our own development agenda, within the remaining period of the Buhari administration.
Let me put you right on the spot, and you permit me to do it. Some fire right now, because the question I like to ask you, you are not in government, but I wanted to imagine perhaps that you are a 7th minister in this government, with the feelers you are getting in town, with what you see, with what you experience as a Nigerian. If you were to be in this government, how would you feel? Do you think that this government is getting a right or positive reaction from the people based on what the average Nigerian is seeing, the food on their table, the money's in their pocket? Do you think the atmosphere is so friendly, is the people friendly with the government policies?
Yeah, as I said, again, unfortunately, I am not part of the government. Even if I imagine, it will just limit myself to the imagination. But the most important thing, as I said, is that we need to isolate what can create jobs immediately. The president has been talking so much about agriculture, but I can just tell you, for example, now, had the government taking stock of all the lakes that we have in this country. We have nearly over 500 and something of them, idle lakes, redundant lakes that have been built since the days of Yakubu Gawan up to, this time. And these lakes have been there, not even fishing. If you go around them, you don't find people fishing in them, only the locals who are around it are fishing. So it means we invested resources in producing assets that actually are unproductive. They are not producing electricity, they are not providing irrigation, and there is nothing happening. Now, if only we can invest resources in linking these assets, water lakes, these lakes, with irrigation infrastructure, similar to what late Audu Bako did in Kano. He never built a dam without a plan to transport the water from that dam, to the locals so that they can farm all through the year. Now, if government does something like this, connect all these dams that we have, with irrigation infrastructure. Now, what you are doing is you are enabling the farmer to be able to farm 3 times a year instead of just waiting to be rain-fed. Now, that enhances his productivity, it increases his income, and he becomes wealthy. Now, as it is today, most of our farmers wait for the rains. If the rains come over the 4 months period, fine. If it fails within 3 months, that's all they can have. Some of them actually lose, because if the rain stops suddenly and the crops have not matured, then they run into difficulty, you know. So I think there is need, as I said, we need to identify what are those things that will trigger activities, you know, and on a sustainable basis. And I just gave an example of this, you know, of networking the dams that we have,
all right. So,
you know, to be able to transport water from one end to the other.
Yeah.
You know, so that farmers can have access to water, you know, about farming 3 times a year, 3 cycles in a year rather than just once.
Let me get Mr. Falana's final thoughts on the program tonight. Senior advocate, give us your view. When the president said Nigerians and elites should judge him fairly in the last 5 years or perhaps in the last 1 year, what are your thoughts from what you see, what you can buy, and perhaps what you see people talking about in the country based on the Buhari government administration's policy and performance?
I think President Buhari has been extremely lucky. His regime has been extremely lucky because Nigerians have been more than patient with the regime in spite of policy reversals and policy inconsistency. I mean, if you take some of the views being expressed here, I mean, you'll be surprised whether you are living in the same country. I mean, the president was saying yesterday that the Lagos-Ibadan rail line is up and working. How? Where? When? And there are other areas of the address. When you are talking of job creation, people are losing their jobs every day because of the neoliberal policies of the government dictated by IMF and World Bank. I'm surprised the gentleman is talking about advisor. Which advisor? Does anybody listen to any advisor under this regime? Please, let us address concrete problems confronting our people. Let us begin to look for solutions. Let the government begin to invest hope in the Nigerian people. If it says that petroleum products are being smuggled out of Nigeria, we have suggested, and that is the position of ASCAP, Alliance on Surviving COVID-19 and Beyond, ASCAP. Go and build filling stations in the neighboring country. After all, our banks have branches in those countries. 2, instead of PMS, go and invest in CNG. That is your promise. This government promised to build refineries. We are now being told by the GMD of NNPC, the government doesn't have the money. Yet, Dangote Group is building a refinery. How can you tell me that government cannot build refineries?
All right.
When you are giving oil blocks to individuals and they are smiling to the banks, making billions at our expense. So the point I'm making therefore, if you do not control your economy, the central bank denies the claim of the president. President Buhari said 3 weeks ago that $25 billion come to Nigeria by way of foreign remittance. But the central bank said, no, it's only $2.6 billion. Okay, where is the $2.6 billion? If $25 billion come to this economy today, the price, the value of the naira will appreciate significantly against the dollar. But they don't want that.
All right.
So
Mr.
the dollar component is abroad.
Yeah.
And that is why we are poor. The economy program is meant to promote poverty. And PDP, please, Shehu, PDP has no moral right. If PDP has no moral right to condemn the continuation of its own economic program, which is what is going on. So the ruling class in Nigeria is totally bereft of ideas.
Mr. Falana, because we are totally out of time now.
Go to the organizations of people. What do you want? How can you run the economy in the interest of Nigeria?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana. Because we're out of time, I must sincerely thank you, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, and the former Minister of Commerce under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, Engineer Mustafa Bello. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Well, that's how we close the program tonight. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Sean Kimbalwe. Bye-bye.